Okay, so you see a headline this morning and you think, what is going on here?
Yeah.
It's April 7th, 2025, and
Uh,
you get this notification maybe on your phone from the finance ministry.
right.
And it says excise duties going up on petrol and diesel by 2 rupees a liter.
Mm, oh,
So, of course, your first thought is, oh, great, my fuel costs are going up again.
naturally, yeah.
But then almost as soon as that notification comes in, you see another one
Okay.
from the petroleum ministry, and they're saying, hold on,
Right.
retail fuel prices, those are expected to stay the same.
Interesting.
So how does that even work?
That's a good question.
How do you raise taxes, but the cost to us stays the same?
Yeah, it seems a little counterintuitive at first glance.
Right.
Yeah,
That's what we're going to figure out today in this deep dive.
absolutely. We're going to break it all down.
We've got two main sources that we're looking at.
Okay.
One is that notification I mentioned from the Department of Revenue
Right.
under the Ministry of Finance. And the second is a statement straight from the Petroleum Ministry.
Okay.
And that's on X,
Got it.
formerly Twitter.
Right, right.
So we're going to look at those and break down exactly how this is all supposed to work.
Yeah, it's not as simple as it might appear on the surface.
No, it's not at all.
There's a lot more going on behind the scenes than just, taxes equal higher prices.
Yeah, and this isn't just about like what we're paying today or tomorrow.
Exactly.
It's about a whole strategy that's kind of unfolding here.
It speaks to a broader pattern and a way of managing things.
So let's dig into that first piece, the actual increase in the duty.
Sure.
Starting tomorrow, April 8th, the excise duty on petrol
Right.
goes from 11 rupees a liter to 13 rupees a liter.
Okay, so a 2 rupee increase there.
And then for diesel,
Uh-huh.
it's going from 8 rupees to 10.
Another 2 rupee jump.
So that's a straight up increase.
Yeah, on paper, that's what it looks like.
So what's the hidden lever? What's making it so those prices at the pump don't actually go up?
Well, to understand that, we need to look beyond our borders
Okay.
to the global oil market.
Interesting.
Because over the past day, we've seen a pretty big drop in international crude oil prices.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so Brent crude,
Okay.
which, that's like a really important benchmark for oil prices globally.
Yeah, I've heard of that one.
It closed yesterday, Monday, April 7th, at 63.23 USD per barrel,
Okay.
which is a significant drop.
Yeah, over 3% in just one day.
Wow. So what's driving that big drop?
Well, it seems like those new tariffs that the Trump administration is putting into place.
They're having a ripple effect
Yeah.
across the global economy,
Uh-huh.
and the oil market is definitely feeling that.
It's all interconnected, right?
And we in India, we're really tied into the global oil market.
Oh, absolutely.
We import something like 85% of our oil.
It's a huge amount.
So these big global swings, those have a direct impact on what happens here.
Definitely, even if we don't always see it right away.
Even if it's not like a super obvious direct connection, right? There are often these more subtle mechanisms at play.
So normally when global crude oil prices drop like that,
Uh-huh.
what would happen?
Typically, you would see the oil marketing companies,
Right.
or OMCs for short.
The ones who actually refine and sell the fuel to us?
Exactly. So you've got your Indian oil, your Frat Petroleum, Hindustan Petroleum.
Okay, yeah.
They would usually pass on those savings
Yeah.
from the lower crude oil costs to the consumers.
So we'd actually see lower prices at the pump.
Yeah,
Like it would be reflected on that little display.
exactly. You'd pull up and think, oh, nice.
A little bit of relief.
Exactly. A little bit of a break.
But that's not what's happening this time.
This time it's a little different.
Instead of those lower crude oil costs getting passed down to us,
Right.
the government stepping in
They are.
and raising that excise duty.
Uh-huh.
So is it fair to say that this 2 rupee hike
Mhm.
is basically taking the place of that price reduction?
Yeah, you could say that the government's essentially capturing that potential price drop
Right.
by increasing the duty.
And using that to bolster their revenue instead.
Exactly. So instead of you and I seeing a couple of rupees less at the pump,
Uh-huh.
that money's going into government coffers.
So if we look at today's prices, April 7th, in Delhi, for example,
Okay.
petrol is about 94.77 rupees a liter.
Yeah.
And diesel is 87.62. And that's what we're expected to keep seeing.
That's the expectation that they've put out there, yeah.
And the petroleum ministry, they've been pretty public about this, haven't they?
Yeah, they put out a statement on X
Right.
saying that the OMCs, they're not going to be raising retail prices even with this excise duty change.
So it's not just like a quiet policy change.
No, they're being very transparent about
It's
it,
very intentional.
right? They even said that the OMCs are absorbing the hit.
So it really does feel like this carefully coordinated thing
It does seem that way.
to try to maintain stability for us.
Yeah, keep things predictable for the average person filling up their tank.
But this isn't just like a one-time thing.
Right.
if you look back at what the government's been doing,
Hmm.
especially in the past few years,
Uh-huh.
they have this whole approach
They do.
where they use these changes in global oil prices to manage their finances,
Yeah, they kind of ride the waves.
but in a way that doesn't give us like those immediate price shocks.
It's like a balancing act.
Right, it's almost like fiscal maneuvering
Yeah, a bit of budgetary sleight of hand, you could say.
without us really feeling a direct pinch.
Exactly, at least not right away.
And we've seen specific examples of this.
Oh, definitely.
Remember back in November 2021 when
Mm.
fuel prices were way up?
Yeah, they were through the roof.
The government, they cut the excise duty
They did.
by 5 rupees a liter on petrol
Right.
and 10 rupees a liter on diesel.
A pretty substantial reduction.
And then they did it again
Yeah.
in May 2022.
Uh-huh.
More reductions.
They were trying to provide some relief.
And then more recently,
Right.
just last year,
Yeah.
March 2024,
Yeah.
the OMCs themselves, they dropped prices.
By a couple of rupees.
So it's like this seesaw.
It really is.
When prices are high, they ease them.
Exactly.
And when crude oil costs are low, they raise the duty.
It's a way to smooth things out.
And for us, what that means is that our day-to-day costs
Hmm.
for our commute, driving the family around,
Whether you're on a scooter, a truck,
they're not really going to increase right now.
that's the idea, at least in the short term.
So there's a certain stability in that.
Right. You can budget a little easier.
But the Petroleum Ministry said that the OMCs are taking the hit here.
Yeah.
So what does that actually mean for them?
Well, you have to wonder about their profit margins.
Right. They've been doing pretty well, haven't they?
They have, because of those lower crude oil prices we talked about.
But absorbing this hike,
Yeah.
that can't be good for their bottom line.
No, it probably eats into those profits a bit.
So it's this interesting balance
It is.
where they're trying to maintain profitability,
Okay.
but also keep prices stable for us.
It's a tightrope walk, for sure.
And it's not like the price we see at the pump. That's just the cost of crude oil, right?
No, there's a lot that goes into that final number.
There's all kinds of taxes and fees and margins built in.
It's a whole layered system.
So there's that excise duty,
Right, that's the central government's levy.
and then each state adds their own VAT,
Exactly.
value-added tax, and then you've
Unbelievable.
got the OMC's own costs.
Yeah, they're refining, transporting, distributing all of that.
And their profit.
Of course, they have to make money too.
So that 94 rupees for a liter of petrol in Delhi,
Right.
that's all of that stuff combined.
That all gets factored in.
And this 2 rupee increase that's just affecting the excise duty.
Right, that's the part the central government controls.
Now, what about that revenue from the excise duty?
Okay,
Where does that go?
well, the government says, okay,
It's for infrastructure,
that's the official line,
roads, schools, hospitals.
big projects that benefit everyone.
Of course, people might have different opinions
Sure, some might be more cynical than others.
about how well those funds are actually used.
Right, there's always room for debate on that.
But that's the stated intention.
Yes, that's what they say the money is for.
And it does make you wonder,
Mm-hmm.
what would have happened
Hello.
if the government hadn't decided to offset that drop in crude oil prices?
Right, what if they just let prices fall?
Can you imagine those headlines?
Yeah, prices slashed at the pump.
We'd all be happy.
Oh, absolutely.
But the government's finances might be a little different.
They might have a tougher time balancing the budget.
So it's this trade-off,
It is a balancing act, for sure.
lower prices for us
Right.
or more revenue for them.
And they're trying to find that sweet spot.
It's almost a little ironic.
It is, in a way.
All this global stuff.
Yeah.
Oil markets, government policies,
Yeah.
and all those calculations from the OMCs.
Very complex systems.
And it all just leads to keeping the price the same.
Keeping the status quo.
And it's even tied to those Trump tariffs.
Right. That whole situation is part of what's driving the drop in Brent crude.
So international politics are affecting what we pay for fuel.
In a very roundabout way.
Yeah, it's fascinating.
And it shows you how interconnected everything is.
We import so much oil.
Right.
85%.
We're at the mercy of these global markets.
Exactly, and we're always dealing with that volatility.
Exactly.
And this excise duty adjustment, this is just the latest example.
Trying to navigate those choppy waters.
So to sum up,
Okay.
even though the excise duty is going up,
Uh-huh.
the prices we see at the pump,
Right.
those aren't expected to change.
For now, at least.
And that's because the government's essentially absorbing that potential benefit.
They're taking the discount and turning it into revenue.
It's a way to boost their finances
Yeah.
without directly impacting us.
At least not
It's
immediately.
stable for now.
Yeah. We have a bit of breathing room.
But it makes you think about the long term.
It does.
What does it mean to keep doing this?
Right. Is this sustainable?
Using these excise duty adjustments
Mm-hmm.
to manage revenue
Yeah.
and respond to these global swings,
Is this the best way to handle things?
especially when you think about how much our energy demands are growing.
And how the global energy landscape is constantly shifting.
It feels like this isn't the last time we'll see this kind of thing.
Probably not.
It's something we'll have to keep watching.
Definitely pay attention to those global oil prices and any new policies that come out.
So there you have it.
Yeah.
We started with what seemed like a contradiction.
Mm-hmm.
Higher taxes, but stable prices.
Right.
But now we see how it all fits together.
Hopefully this deep dive has made things clearer.
So keep an eye on those global trends
Yeah, stay informed.
and keep this framework in mind.
It'll help you understand what's happening.
Next time you're at the pump,
Absolutely.
wondering why those numbers are what they are.
It's a complex world out there.
But we'll keep digging into it
That's what we're here for.
and hopefully help you make sense of it all.
Exactly. Stay tuned.
Until next time.
See you then.